Hi, my name is Chantal, and I am part of the OREO Microcampus group. I am honored to have traveled with 11 of my peers, along with Mr. T, Miss Mai, and Sophie, to a small village in Dali called Qizhou to study a topic of our interest. The topic that I have chosen is tie-dye and photography. In my time at Qizhou, I have learned a plethora of information, but I did not learn just facts. I also learned about myself, and I have grown as a person going on this trip. A quote that comes to mind is that big things are accomplished through the perfection of minor details. At Microcampus, each task that we have is bearing quite some weight, but these tasks are easy to master and to be completed if one follows the directions that the teachers give. Though our group sometimes struggled with this, we all pulled through those tough times and arrived at the end of this trip creating our final product after a week of research in Qizhou. As my peers have come to create their final products around one main idea, I have two, and that is, in order to examine the changes of tie-dye in Qizhou, one must consider the past, the present, and the future. Qizhou is a plant that can be turned into blue-colored dye that is widely seen on most tie-dye pieces. But since it takes months and months, and sometimes years to make, people are now turning to the cheaper, more affordable chemical dye. Take a look closely at all of the tie-dye pieces surrounding the area, because if one looks and examines the pieces closely, they will find out that the pieces all look the same, the sizes are all the same, and there is no difference in the color, and it is not as blending as traditional pieces. Blending means that you can see that there are some parts that are darker or lighter than others, and the white is not directly contrasted on the blue. Families used to pass down this tradition generation by generation. Now, as I sit with the families, they tell me that their kids are all out working in the cities, and they believe that this job is too tiring. But as I sat on the stool making a tie-dye piece, I could not help but wonder how someone would think this is a tiring job. Maybe the income is low, maybe it does take time, but designing everything and spending time with their families creating art is anything but boring. Sadly, the current generation believes that even if life is harder in the city, it is worthwhile. However, there is a shop down in Zhouchen that still uses traditional indigo and plant dye, and they want this tradition to be preserved. Xiaobai is the owner of this shop, and she has inherited the shop from her grandparents, since this is their family tradition. Though I went to this shop many times, I've seen Xiaobai only once. All the other times, I was talking to Xiaoxia. She taught me how to differentiate chemical dye from indigo dye, and she taught me the different techniques for tie-dye. Indigo dye is a cold dye, meaning the cloth needs to be soaked in cold water and cold dye made from indigo. But blue chemical dye is a hot dye, meaning the cloth is put into a boiling pan of blue dye. Throughout the trip, I went to visit two tie-dye shops that customers can make their own tie-dye pieces, and they were completely opposites. One was traditional indigo dye shop, which was Xiaobai's business, and one was Yang Nainai's, which consisted of using chemical dye. When I went to both of these shops, I had completely different experiences. In Xiaobai's shop, Xiaoxia would help me and explain to me what I had to do for the tie-dye and what would be the result of my actions. She also let me do most of the handwork, allowing me to dye and tie the cloth up myself. But at Yang Nainai's, after I sew up the cloth, they took the cloth from me and tied everything up and dyed it for me. That left me wondering why these shops are complete opposites of each other. This is not the way tie-dye was in the past. Tie-dye used to have compact designs that were very intricate, but now it is the complete opposite. Even though some of the designs and the old traditional designs can be found in Xiaobai's workshop, not many people know how to make pieces like this, since even now, after studying tie-dye for a long time in Qizhou, people such as Xiaoxia have told me that it takes a lot of effort, and the elders are more trained in this aspect of tie-dye. Traditional prints usually consist of a few designs such as the caterpillar, the pearl flower, and the horse teeth. Though these designs are still used, they are losing the beauty that they used to possess. After Xiaoxia taught me how to notice the difference between chemical and indigo dye, I ventured out looking for more information. As Miss Mai and I stumbled upon the tie-dye museum in Zhouchen, we asked the vendor if this piece was using natural dye. They said yes, but after I took a closer look at this piece, I found out that this was a chemical dyed piece, since the colors were very contrast against each other, and the color comes off the cloth if you add water to your finger and rub at the fabric. Either, since the chemical dye could possibly cause rashes or irritate the skin. So the products are usually tablecloths or handkerchiefs. But you can see other products such as pants and skirts and also bags. On the contrary, the indigo/plant dye is not as harmful to the skin, and the color does not come off. So there is a greater variety in the products that can be produced. Many people these days do not know how to differentiate the difference between chemical and indigo dye. Since Xiaobai taught me how to differentiate these two dyes, I am now able to understand more about how to differ these two types of dye and how people are falling for their marketing tricks. If one understood that the market is not going for quality, but rather income, then they will start looking at tie-dye differently and understand that they are falling for the tricks of the market. When I asked the locals around, they did not have much of a future in mind for tie-dye. Most people have different opinions on what the future of tie-dye will turn out to be like, but most come to a common agreement that the future of the traditional tie-dye will disappear in a few generations. But according to Mr. Ying, as long as the business can be profited off of, then someone will work in this industry because everybody wants money and will find ways to make money. Even if there are not many families left that can create tie-dye in the future, as long as this product is still in demand, then someone will rise up and take the job. Now, one has fully examined the past, present, and the future of tie-dye. One can understand how tie-dye in Xizhou has changed over the years. I have learned more in the short 28 days I've stayed in Xizhou than the 11 years I've stayed in Shanghai, since here we can expand our intercultural understanding. But back in Shanghai, if you say hi to someone on the street, they think you're mad. So thank you, Xizhou. Thank you for hosting us here for 28 days. I've learned more than you will ever know. I hope we meet again. Overall, this really has been one really excellent opportunity. Thank you, Mr. T and Ms. Mai, for allowing us this opportunity and for being there for us through our hardest times, and for always having faith in us and making sure and believing that each day is a new day and that each day is better than the last. So thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity.